Hey there, mule riders, looky here. A whole different country, isn't it? Look at all those colors. Hey, Steve, you're not in Arizona. Yep, you're right, not in Arizona. Look at all these colors. This is Vermont. We're visiting my wife's brother and his wife, and it's been really nice days here. Of course, this is not bad either. I always like to see a little moisture, but hey, we got a great show for you today. I hope you enjoy it. Be looking forward to being live next week. So happy trails to you. And I hope you enjoy this little training session. And be sure to get a hold of me. You got any questions at all, call me at 602-999-6853. Or if you want to call me, email me at steve@muleranch.com. We'd be happy to do that. Look at here. I got my sweater on from my puppy, Jess. Loves eating ice cream. Happy trails to you.
I'm here. Steve's here. That means it's time to talk mules and donkeys for 60 minutes straight. And if we're lucky, maybe 61 minutes straight. We'll do a little bonus hour there. My name is Dave. And like I said, this is Steve Edwards. And every single Wednesday, we get together to talk about mules and donkeys. Today, we've got all sorts of wonderful questions to get through. But before we do, Steve, how are you doing this week?
Hey, I've got another great day going. My wife, she had that COVID for about 15 days, and it sure beat her up. But she come through it, and the Lord healed her, and we're doing good. She was able to get through it without a whole lot of trouble. Like a lot of folks, she didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. But anyway, she's doing good. But
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I know that folks listening are glad to hear it. Whenever there's something going on with either one of our families, folks are real good to come in and just, say prayers are going out. And we do believe in the power of prayer. And so we're very grateful for all the prayers that have come our way. This week, we're going to be talking about bits. We're going to be talking about feed. We're going to be talking about let's see here. Tack and training. We're going to be talking about, mule riders, martingale, maybe not working. We're going to tackle it all. But before we do, we want to just welcome you and say thank you for hanging out with us. Really, this program does not happen week in and week out without you. And we're grateful that you are choosing to spend a little bit of your time with us. So here is how it works. If this is your first time hanging out with us, first time in a long time, or if you're here every week, you can help everybody else in the group. There's really only three things we ask. Number one, that you just share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like. We want to know you're here. We want to say howdy to you. We want to know that you are zoned in and that you are with us, because Steve and I can talk anytime. Matter of fact, we text back and forth one another just about every day, but we want to spend some time talking with you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you ask any and every mule question that you have. That's the second request that we have. I've got a few predetermined questions lined up here, but we really want to answer your questions. No questions too dumb, no questions too simple. If you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it, so go ahead and ask it so they can get the results too. And that is what we want. We want you to get back out there, gain the trust of your animal, get results in your training. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing that we ask is that you share the broadcast. So if you are on YouTube, go ahead, click the like button and click subscribe. That helps the algorithm let everybody else who is into equine know to tune in and watch what we're doing here at Queen Valley Mule Ranch. So if you're on YouTube, like the broadcast and click subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you can do the exact same thing by liking the post, liking the video, but go ahead and click the share button or just tag a friend or a family member in the comment section. It would be really, really great to meet some of the folks that you're doing life with and that you're doing equine, enjoyable stuff with, and to get to meet them as well. So I got a couple folks we'll say hello to, and then we'll get right into it. Sound good, Steve?
hey, let's go.
All right, let's do it. Greg is watching from Grass, it says. So apparently Grass is where Greg's at right now. Cowboy Ken is watching 75 degrees and sunny in Connecticut. We've got Herman watching from sunny Arizona, and Herman sent in a question for us today. We'll get to that, Herman. And then we've got Ron in Virginia watching from Berg Hill, Ohio, 75 degrees and partly cloudy. Greg is watching from Grass Valley. There we go, Grass Valley, Valley, California. It is a beautiful day, but a little warm at 99. And I'll tell you, it is a little bit warm out there. My wife and kids and I, we were in California over the weekend. We did an extra long weekend, and it was a lot warmer than we thought it would be. But when you get down by the ocean, everything drops about 15 degrees, and it's just fine. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll get into our first question of the day. If you've got a question, put it in the comment section. We'll get to it. The first question today comes from Kit. Kit asks, I am starting a Mule Colt that is just coming to and would like your opinion on what bit to start him with. If you could let me know what you think and where I could get one, that would be great. Steve, what bit should Kit start with?
Well, of course, my favorite of all is what I've been using for, I don't know, 30, 35 years, and that's my Mule Rider's Martingale. Understand, folks, that when you do foundation training on a colt, it's not the bit. It is come along hitch, groundwork, rope halter, come along hitch, groundwork, okay? That's what you do first. Mules respond very well off of their nose. So when you're doing foundational work, back up, go left, go right. You're doing that type of work. Whoa, stand still. All ground foundational work before the bit. Now, I probably wouldn't hang a bit into that mule's mouth till he was, probably just close to 3 years old. Usually when their knees are closed, I'll start riding them. But if I do anything at all with a bit, I'll take and put it on with a surcingle and use the Mule Rider's Martingale. Now, why the Mule Rider's Martingale? This reason. Because your mule would naturally try to protect himself. So what they'll do is they'll get a hold of the bit and they'll root and they'll try to get it to be where they want it to be and do what they want it to do. So number one we're going to do is the idea of the Martingale is to be able to, it's a string that goes onto the snaffle bit. It's a double twisted wire snaffle bit. And then every time the mule's nose goes out, the string bumps him because the string is attached to a biophane strap which goes down to the front cinch. So when the mule sticks his nose out, it bumps his mouth. When he elevates his head, it bumps his head, okay? So that way it creates this foundation, flat, top of the hip, top of the wither, top of the head, straight. Nose on the vertical. When the nose is on the vertical, they are listening to the bit. When the nose is sticking out, they're not listening to the bit. Now, there's another reason for the head to be up and the nose to be sticking out, and that is the saddle is banging the scapula. So if I was going to start this colt, as I would do any of them, number one, I would have done it the day I weaned him from mom. I would have started doing all of my groundwork, all of my combination work, going across barriers. Oh, and hey, I didn't tell you, Dave, but there's something out there that we got to be concerned about. And I just found out about it because I watched my granddaughter fight them off.
What
yes.
is that?
Yeah, pirates. Yes, I watched. Yeah. You know how we're always desensitizing? We got a new thing we got to be worried about. Pirates on the trail. Pirates. Now, where did I see the pirates? I seen it as my granddaughter. She won. What all did she win? Oh, I can't find it now. I had it
So
here.
while Steve's looking for that, folks, Steve's granddaughter, Nat, participated in the Ozark Mule Days Mule Makeover. And this was the second year in a row she participated. I think she took like third place or something last year. And, well, go ahead, Steve. Tell them about this year.
She took second place, and then she took overall rider, okay? Now, this year, she took 2020 Senior Youth Missouri Makeover Champion and 2021 Youth Overall. I'm sorry, my buttons are trying to pop off here from Yeah, I'm kind of proud of this one. And she got a mule colt given to her as well. Okay. But let me
No.
tell you what happened. Yeah, let me tell you what happened. We're going to have a new desensitizing thing because pirates are out there. Now I saw it. It's on YouTube or Facebook. I saw it on Amy's mom's thing, but it's probably on Missouri Makeover video as well. In come a mule dragging in harness, dragging a black boat, and her dad was walking, leading the mule. In come another pirate, her mom, all dressed in black and had a big sword the whole bit. Then in come riding Nat. She come riding in on a colt. Now get this, folks. This lady was just asking about a 2-year-old. I want y'all to listen to this. This colt was started Memorial Day weekend, I believe. Nat can probably tell me different. But I think that's when they got their colts. I'm getting kind of choked up over this one. Anyway, and now for Labor Day weekend, she competed with that colt. So what are we talking? You know, how many months? We're talking into May, right? So we're talking June, July, August, September, 4 months. All right, 4 months. You can see her loping the colt. You can see her jumping off of her mule. Oh, wait a minute. She only had a bridle on and a bit and a rein. And she was leading the mule. And there was what? No rope halter? No lead rope? Oh.
How are you supposed to survive?
Yeah, well, I forgot. It's called foundation training with a come-along hitch. Once you have your foundation training, folks, done, 4 to 6 hours a week is all you really got to need. Okay. Now, in that length of time, now don't forget, Nat is homeschooled. Don't forget, Nat she trains other mules. She's got other mules and stuff as well. But you can see her jump off of this mule, leading her mule with the rein, and she's fighting the other pirate off, who was her mom. Her mom jumps up and throws the sword around and all this stuff, and then they unhook the mule that was leading the boat, and then Nat jumped on her mule and rode around with the flag. Now get this in your mind, folks. We're talking 4 months. Taking a colt that's never been ridden to now one that's taking care of pirates. She loped circles. She did all kinds of stuff. You got to see it. Okay. Now, I said all that to say this. What did Nat do to spend most of her time? Groundwork. The lady with this 2-year-old, groundwork. Don't get in a hurry to ride. When your groundwork is correct, the riding is the easy part. That's the icing on the cake. There should be no bucking, should be no jumping around, because the communication on the ground with groundwork is what we all need. Now, let me go back again. Remember, I talked to you all about grit. How many's been watching grit out there? Come on, tell us. How many of you been watching grit since I told you about it? And watch them. They ride up with their horse. They don't have a halter on. It's tied to a leather rein. They put 3 wraps, no knots or anything, just 3 wraps, and they walk off. Why is that? Groundwork. They have respect for pressure. Normally what happens is they blow up. I'll never forget when nylon halters first come out. We had people contact us saying, hey, we had halter pullers, we call them, jerk back. Well, they had them nylon halters. Gotten big things. So anyway, that's a round and about. I was looking for some way to get in there about my granddaughter Nat, and this worked out pretty good about this 2-year-old.
There you go.
Now, I answered questions there, but a long way. Now, I have that Colt Foundation training video, that 5-video set. You'll see 5 people who have never trained before, never, okay? Watch and see the steps they do. But you need to do groundwork, surcingle work, groundwork, surcingle work, until the colt is consistent. Then look at saddling, then look at riding, and go on from there.
Very good. Well, let's keep moving right along here. Let's see. Levi is watching from Albert County, New Brunswick, Canada. We have gone international. Question for you,
There it is.
Steve. Can your foundation bit be used for first bit for a horse? Paint horse, 9 years old, never had a bit, inner mouth. Thank you in advance.
Uh, Now, if he's talking foundation, maybe he's talking driving, because where I build my foundation is through the Mule Riders Martingale. And yes, we used this saying before I got my standards higher and I was riding horses. We called it a cowboy martingale at that time. And yes, we used it on horses consistently. No problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question, Levi. Teresa's watching, says Terry and Roger. So Terry and Roger from mid Hudson Valley of New York. Sunny and beautiful day here, 78 degrees. Shelly is watching from Sook, British Columbia, Canada. International again, 70
Yeah.
degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you for doing that math for us. Sunny and warm. Lisa is watching from Tennessee, cloudy and 72. LaDonna is watching from Joplin, Missouri, and watching from Navasota, Texas. Good to have you. Myra's here. Glad to be with you again. Glad you're here, Myra. Greetings from hot, sunny Southern California. Polly is watching from Barnesville, Minnesota. Beautiful fall day. Had a nice ride on Cookie this morning. Jim is watching from 82 degrees, Irondale, Alabama. A little overcast today, he says. Paul is watching from Michigan. We've got Mountain Sage says, getting real close to ordering saddle and all the gear. Donkey measures 67 at girth, 81 then inches behind that, or 81 10 inches behind that. There you go. So maybe looking for cinch sizes, I guess.
Yeah. So, we'd probably put a 28 on the front and probably a 32 on the back.
There we go. 28, 32. Loose in the front, snug in the back. David is watching from East Texas, 90 degrees and sunny. Shelly is watching, saying, I am currently training with a great trainer, an old Molly mule that was previously used as a pack horse. I got her at auction, so very little info on her. I was able to get some info from his previous owner, who said that he sold her because he worked with the public with his outfitting job. Apparently, she wasn't great with her hind and didn't want her to kick the public, so he sent her to the public auction. Honestly, I think she was used very, very roughly. My question is, can a mule be retrained to allow us to touch her hind legs? She is so scared when I work with her and on her hind.
Most of the time, Dave, people are picking up the hind legs incorrectly, especially horsemen, and it's amazing to see. I got a kick out of, I was up in Washington several years ago, and this old packer was up there, and you know how he shot his horses and mules. They had this big table, it's like a trailer, and so this table would be here, and it'd be setting straight up. The horse would walk alongside of the table, they'd strap it down, and then they'd pull it up flat, and the feet would be sticking out. They'd take grinders and grind the feet and all this stuff, and then they'd tie the shoes on. Then you'd watch the horses struggle, just struggle, struggle, struggle. Then you watch the mule just walk up, just lay there. They strap it down, they lay the mule down, they shoe him, he's done. Long story short, let's go back this way. When you pick up a back foot, we're on the left-hand side, which is the near side. You put your left hand on the hip, slide your hand down the leg at the hock, bring it forward toward the head, and then slide your head down toward the pastern. You go straight back and then over to the left. Do you hear that? Uncock the hip. That's what you're doing. Most horsemen just pick it straight up and pull it out. No wonder the mule's fighting you. Now, Dave, we got a good video there that we can send her, and folks can see it when I'm using the come-along hitch, and I got a mule that's on the fight. You all see how quickly that mule straightens up.
I put that into the comment section. Folks can find it on YouTube, and yeah, it's a great video. Continuing along here, we've got, let's see, Myra says, I was very impressed with your granddaughter's mule makeover. She rides so gently, dancing with her mule. Beautiful. Thank you, Myra. I know Steve is excited to hear that. Mark is watching from sunny Anza, California. Herman says, grit is awesome. Richard Matthews, good morning, Chaplain Steve and Dave. Good morning, Captain.
There's a good captain.
There we go, right there. Levi says, the Mule Rider's Martingale is what I was talking about for the horse.
Yes, absolutely. You can use it on a horse just fine. Like I said, we used to call it the cowboy martingale, but now that I don't mess with horses that much, we call it the mule rider's martingale.
All right, very good. Continuing right along here, Samantha's watching. Thank you again for your help, Steve. My husband Wesley said you spoke with him yesterday. Excited to receive the rest of his tax so he can go out with me. And she's got nice emojis there for you. And they're watching from Woodcrest, California. Linda the Mule Servant and Theo the sweet one-eyed mule from the Peach Wars in my very hot kitchen. The peaches are still winning after 6 pints of peach butter and 8 pints of peach marmalade. And Linda, if you need our address, you just let us know.
Yeah, no problem, Linda.
We'll take it off your hands. We got you right there. Bonnie is watching from Indiana, beautiful Indiana day, for a ride with Lily and training my mini horse to pull cart. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's see here. Going on, the next question that I've got, this one's about Lakin Lite, which Lakin Lite is the pellet feed that Steve recommends, and Steve does recommend a pellet feed, and there's some other things that you can do as well. You really want to get a hair sample when you're talking about feed. Get a hair sample done so you can see what vitamins and minerals the animal might be deficient in, and that can really inform creating your feed and nutrition program. But this one came from Gregory. Gregory says, I've been watching your videos for just over a year and a half. I really enjoy watching you and Dave dive into a subject every week. I have one burro, BLM, 2 mini mules, 2 Katandan sheep, and 3 Nigerian dwarf goats. And a partridge and a pear tree. I'm currently feeding the burro and mini mules Purino Enriched Plus and teff grass hair. Hey, I feed twice a day. After watching your videos, I have to ask, can I switch them over to a Lakin Lite completely and eliminate the teff hay altogether? Since I live in Northern California, I can't get Lakin Lite without paying a huge freight bill. And I heard you say a while that in California doing a clinic, you use star milling products. If you think I could switch over from Purina Plus and teff grass hay to Lakin Lite type product, which star milling product should I use that would give the same types of benefits that you see?
Okay, now Star Milling is an excellent milling company owned by a very strong Christian man and family. Great people. They supplied all the feed for us at Pierce College when we had our mule program going on over there. Now, all you have to do is take the ingredients off of the article, Mules Can't Drown Prosperity. Take the ingredients, go into a Star Milling dealer, say, I'm looking for a pellet that looks like this. Now, folks, a little bit of alfalfa is okay. We just don't want to be feeding solid alfalfa. Now, some mules can handle alfalfa and others cannot. So that's where the hair samples come in. That's where talking to your vet comes in, and to be able to make some wise decisions on your feed.
Very good. Yeah, feed's a huge deal. Folks, we have a great talk. It's called Feed Talk, appropriately, and it's absolutely free. You can get it at the website. I'm going to put a link in the comment section right here. And this really gives you a deep dive into what you should consider with your feed and nutrition program. Now, like I said, you need to make sure that you get a hair sample done in order to get the right and best information. But this feed and nutrition video is a really good first step to take. The next question we got, this one's about the come along rope, and it's from David. So David, you're here watching. I have your come along rope and video. It's working great with my 6-month-old Molly mule. I have a general question about maintenance of the come along rope. What is the suggested way of cleaning it, and should it be relaxed at some point? I think I heard Steve mention rewaxed at some point. I think I heard Steve mention rewaxing it on one of the Wednesday videos, but missed the specifics. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to clean it per se, because it gets really dirty pretty quick. But using a paraffin wax, I usually will take a leather glove that I keep around, and I'll get that wax into my hand, and then I'll just start rubbing it on that rope, rubbing it on the rope, rubbing it on the rope, especially the first 6 foot. Because the idea of the wax is to try to help the rope from coming away from the nose and away from the head, okay? The idea is to go bump, bump, bump. Now, sometimes you got to be a little tougher, all right? And then when it does that, then it goes up the nose. I understand, okay? Now, so paraffin wax, just put it on a leather glove and just clean it off, and just keep rubbing it in, and that'll work good. About the first 6 foot. Now, I can tell you that I also really like to have it down around where I'm doing my work, where I'm holding onto it with my hands. Always wear a good pair of gloves when you're doing that come along rope.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, David. Appreciate it. Let's see. The next question I got, this one comes from Greg. And Greg was asking, let's see, it's coming up right here on my screen. Where is your nearest apprentice to me in Ohio? My mule needs multiple handlers to finish him well. So what do you got there on finishing a mule well, and do you have anyone you recommend, Steve?
Nobody in Ohio. The closest one's going to be to you would actually be over in Iowa with Sue, or my granddaughter down in Missouri. Of course. Other than that, partner, I don't know. You know, and I really tell you, folks, do it yourself. Okay? Build a foundation of trust with yourself. Okay? Do that. Here's my granddaughter. She's only 18, folks. Okay? And she don't weigh 90 pounds sopping wet, I bet. So, and she's training on her own. And don't think because I'm her grandpa, because I'm in Arizona. She is in Missouri. I can talk to her on the phone a little bit, and I have been there last year. I couldn't make it this year because my wife had COVID, but she watches my videos. She follows the program, okay? And if you watch her in there, watch her hands. Her hands are right. When she does her work, it's bump, bump, bump. Slow, easy work, okay? But her hands are correct. Now, she didn't get that because I was right there saying ABC. She got it by watching the videos, just like a lot of you other folks. A lot of you can click on there right now and say, yep, I done it myself. I would rather see you do it yourself than take it to somebody who says, yes, I'm a trainer, and they end up leaving a lot of holes in the mule. And I see it all the time, Dave, especially when you take them. I've seen trainers, you know, riding their own saddles, the back of the saddle sticking up in the back like this, and no bridging or nothing, but yet they're supposed to be a trainer. And I see it all the time on the internet. It's frustrating. But here's this, okay? Do it yourself. My videos, what do we got out there, Dave, and YouTube? Like 380 videos?
We got a lot of videos, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and people always say to me, Dave, gosh, you know, you got great videos. I said, well, it's because I got Dave the Great. You know, he's astonishing. He's amazing. That's right. I mean, I've known this kid since he was 18, folks. And the first thing he did for me was put lightning bolts on the front of a video because I wanted to say, this is not Hollywood. This is the real thing. And now Dave is doing this. It's amazing. But going back to this, do this yourself. Build confidence. Forget about the riding. The riding's not important. Build confidence between you and that mule. You be the herd leader. That mule has confidence in you to go on. Folks, please, don't take it to some of these folks who say they're trainers, okay? I only know of less than a handful of folks that I would really say, not even a hand, yeah, maybe 5, that would be really good with mules. And there's one in Texas on the Louisiana border, but most folks that I know are down south. Well, let's see, one in Missouri too. My granddaughter now. Okay.
There we go.
So there we are. Do it yourself.
Do it yourself. That's right. And we do have lots of resources for you. And of course, If you get stuck, we want to help you. Reach out and you can talk to Steve on the phone. You can send me an email and I can point you in the right direction of the right video. And sometimes I can answer some questions too. This next question comes from Mark. And before I read that out, I just want to say it's the bottom of the hour here. And so if you are joining us, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. If you're spending a little bit of time with us on your Wednesday afternoon, it really means a lot to us and we're grateful to have you. Please just put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comment section so we can say hello. And then ask any and every mule question you got. We'll make sure to get to it, get you some answers, and you can get back out there, gain trust with your animal, and get some results. Speaking of getting results, Mark has the question. I have an old Molly that was a pack station mule, retired from there, rides great, but I can't get her to bring her front foot forward to clean up and trim. What can I do to get her to extend her front foot out in front to clean up and trim? She will pull back when I ask to extend the front legs.
She's saying, hey, I got a problem here in my leg, because usually it goes pretty smooth and easy. Come along hitch would be the great thing to have, but I would strongly suggest having a vet look at that shoulder. All right, now here folks, here's a good training tip. Here's a good thought, okay? If you're having a hard time with your mule tripping, if you're having a hard time keeping the front feet out on a stand, and this sort of thing, you could very well have a scapula problem. Now, I'm going to tell you that, these guides and packers all try their best to try to make these animals do good. But sometimes they may have an employee that's not quite watching or something like that, and the scapula gets banged on a lot with a pack saddle or with a riding saddle, because I'll be honest with you, very few outfits really use top quality equipment. I understand they don't want to spend the money, but anyway, it's another story. Here's the deal. Get your veterinarian to take a look at that, because if that mule, if you're pulling it slow and easy forward and he's got a problem, then I would have it checked out. And it's probably the left shoulder.
All right. Continuing along here, we got a message from our friend Andrew. Says, I'm contacting you about starting my own mule ranch. I've been around mules my whole life, and now that I'm an age, I would like to make a profession of it. I was just wondering if you had any tips or guidance on getting started. Thank you in advance. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you.
Yeah, you could have got started back like when I was 18 years old and started gaining wisdom and learning and things like this. Good for you for giving it your own mule ranch and giving it some thoughts, because you got your work ahead of you. When you say mule ranch, are you going to try to raise your own? Are you going to try to have a training outfit? What are you going to do? Because one of the neat things about today and what we're doing today is we got so much information out there, good stuff, better ways to train and stuff. So when you say mule ranch, are you going to raise your own mules?
Good question. So, hey, if you're watching that, Andrew, get back to us. Let's have a conversation here. All right, Herman, I got to your question. Steve says, I got a question for you. I can pick up my mule's feet just fine, but the back legs, he wants to pull them back, and I struggle keeping them. Thank you for any insight. So I shared that video a little bit earlier. I'll share it again. Any additional thoughts here specifically for Herman? He's got this animal wanting to pull the legs back.
Well, it's not that unusual. I mean, they're hurting if you don't pull the leg right. And remember, folks, anytime you're training, don't expect to be a zap overnight succession. They've been doing this for a lot of years, and it's your timing that makes things work the best. I know folks watch me all the time and say, "Boy, you did it so fast." Now listen, I got 32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips, and I didn't get that from being fast. Most of the time, half fast. Did you get that part? Anyway, so it comes down to it is that take your time, be careful, do a little at a time, use the come along rope, and do what I do there in that video.
Awesome. We've got Michelle watching, says, Steve, thank you for giving me the name of Susan S. out in Ocala, Florida. So there you go. Beth, hey, Beth, watching from Pittsboro, North Carolina. Storms rolling in, but we need them. Good to see you both again. Good to be seen, Beth. Thank you. I'm looking forward to putting my ornament on my tree here in the next couple months. Abby is watching from Upper Peninsula, Michigan, where it's rainy and 70 degrees. Quick question. My mule is a touch under 12 hands high. How much weight would you say she could safely carry?
With any mule, folks, any horse, any donkey, conditioning, conditioning, conditioning. They all have tendons, and that tendon runs down the back of the leg. And those tendons can get bows, high bow, middle bow, low bow, bowed tendon. Okay. So it's a matter of conditioning to condition the mule for this. Now, the basic weight for any equine is basically 200 pounds max. That's it. Okay. So us little fat boys like me can't ride a lot of these animals because, quote, I'm too fat at 204 pounds, and I lied about that. So anyway, here's the deal. Condition that animal. If you go to the Grand Canyon, I don't care how good of a rider you are, if you are 200 pounds and 1/2 ounce, they will not put you in the saddle. You have to be under 200 pounds. So condition your animal, prepare him, just like you would. Let's just say you're getting ready to go packing back in the mountains with your backpack on your back. Okay. If you're smart, you're going to start exercising and preparing ahead of time. That's what you should be doing. Now, my favorite mule that I ride down in Andrada Ranch is a little mule that's 13.2, and he thinks he's 17.2, and he carries. Matter of fact, he carries a 38-inch cinch on the back. He's kind of a chubby little rascal, but powerful, and he's in excellent condition. Okay, so there you are. You know, the pounds are going to depend on how conditioned your mule or donkey is.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that question. Next question. This one's from Linda, the mule servant. Silly question about mules pastured with horses. Theo can step out, but usually doesn't care to unless the mares are chasing him. Yesterday, I saw him blasting across the pasture all alone, taking corners on 2 wheels, 2 laps around the whole property. He's 11 and as patient as the floor, but he could have just gotten sick and tired of 5 squealing mares in heat and decided to run off in annoyance. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, yeah, that's a possibility. Most of the time, those old geldings, when they hear them mares squeal, they come running. Hey, what can I do for you, sweetheart? And I've even seen of them. I've even seen them try to mount a mare, and that's because them mares are shoving that tail around at them, you know. But that's a new one on me. Usually, them geldings are right in there trying to see what's going on. If he ran off, good for him. I think that's a biblical stance right there, isn't it, Dave?
It might be. It might be. Let's see here. Larry is
Joseph,
watching.
no?
What's that?
Joseph.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Joseph.
You got to get out of there real quick.
That's right. Run.
Let's see. Larry is watching from rainy and it's 70 degrees in East Kentucky. Hannah is watching from Dunallen, Florida. Cloudy and storms. Have a Paso Fino mule and miniature donkeys. Awesome, Hannah. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate you being here. Jerry is watching from Fort Benton, Montana. 90 degrees here. Spent 3 days riding my mule Louie with his Steve Edwards ultralight saddle. Wow, comfort for me and Louie. I really have seen a difference in Louie's attitude since I went to his saddle. Had always used a horse saddle before, worth every penny I paid. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. We hear that quite a bit, but it never really ceases to just fill us with gratitude and just appreciation that we've been able to create something that's been able to benefit so many different people. And quite frankly, create a job for you, Steve, where you can continue to help people over and over again. So that saddle really is a gift in more ways than one. Linda says, advice to the nice man who wants to start his own mule ranch. Learn to cook beans in lots of interesting ways because you'll be living on them for years, like every entrepreneur. That is no joke.
Good
That's
for
no
you,
joke.
Linda. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, Linda is a nurse, by the way,
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I called her and talked to her a little bit about some odds and ends things. We won't go into any detail around it, but she's a respiratory therapist. So I kind of had some questions for her about my wife, and it was interesting to get some feedback from her.
Well, that's good. Thank you, Linda. Making friends all over the country, all over the world. Abby says,
Yeah.
thank you. Linda says, thank you, Steve. Shelly says, mules are too smart. I often tell my Molly mule to dumb it down and act like a horse when I want her to do something that she's resisting. That's pretty good. Thank you for that, Samantha.
Yep.
Next question that we've got here. This one is from Valerie, and Valerie sent a couple pictures. I'll read. I'll read the. Let's see. I'll read the question while you maybe take a look here, Steve. It says, my daughter has a 12-hand pony, and she's the most cartoonish oddball thing and seems to be built like a zebra. I've tried 3 saddles and none worked one way or another. I found you on YouTube and feel you're my last hope. I'd sell my left arm to get her back on the pony. She broke her to ride herself in the year we've had her, and the pony is 4 and my daughter is 9. I taught her how to do hooves after 2 bad experiences with farriers that made her worse than when we got her. She breaks into the house and steals oranges or licks the mirror of my licks the mirror or my daughter's. I watched her be sold on Facebook 3 times, then about to be sent to the slaughter, and I sold something dear to me to get her. I'm not one for material items, so it was worth it, but keeping her comfortable so she can put up with my 4 daughters, 5, 7, 9, and 14 is worth everything. I know your saddles are expensive, but I know that I can come up with the money if you think you can help. Thank you for reading this, and I hope it made you laugh. There we go. So here's the pictures that she sent in right there. So got a picture from the top here, and got a picture of the side. Steve, what do you think here?
Okay, so what I need to know is, do you have any pictures of your saddles on your horses? I need to see those pictures, okay? That's number one. Now, number two, no, my saddle will not work on any horse. I better back up. I have personally seen my tree setting on a Mustang, and it was pretty impressive, but I have yet to see my tree on any other horse where it was working. Do not put it on your horse. I've told people all the time, it bridges, it creates a problem. My favorite story is a guy in Utah. He was a horse trainer, and he started training mules. He bought my saddle, actually my cowboy, and was riding these mules, and decided one day he's going to ride a horse, and called me up and said, man, your saddle fit my horse really good. And I said, no, 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 don't do that. Called me 3 months later from the ER with a broken collarbone. He got bucked off. Horse finally had enough. So let's go back to this. Send me pictures. The biggest problem, Dave, is what people got to think about is when you go into any saddle shop, you have 2 saddles. You may have 50, 60 saddles in there, but you only have 2 trees. Semi-quarter horse, narrow, 4/4 horse, wide. It's only 2 trees you get. Now, yes, the skirting's going to be different. Yes, the rigging plates are going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, that's the only trees. So, on a short couple animal like that, you want round skirted. Round skirted. My little mule is a short couple little mule, okay? But if I had a square skirted saddle, it would rub the hip and it would rub the shoulder. Now, if I wanted to rub anything at all, I don't mind it rubbing the hip as much. It's not what I want, okay? But it's what you can do. And so my pad is 28 inches, and then my actual tree itself, my bars are 19 and a half inches, so it makes it all together about 21 inches. So going with that, the biggest problem where people run into is they don't use a rear cinch. Now, the other thing, and when I say don't use a rear cinch, you don't make it as tight as you do the mules, because the way the horses are made, they're V-shaped in your shoulders. Mules are A-shaped or V-shaped in their shoulders. Horses are A-shaped in their shoulders. That's why the saddle doesn't go forward on a horse, okay? But it goes backwards on a horse. So here's what I would do. That little pony has a down hip on her. So the hip is higher than the wither. That saddle is going to want to go forward. It's imperative. Imperative. You ride with the rear cinch and the front one loose, a little bit tighter on the back end. Now the next part. My pad will help you out because it's a downhill hip pad. It's thicker on the front, narrow in the back. So when you got a horse or a mule with that high of a hip, that saddle's going to want to go forward. So most likely, Dave, she needs to give us more information, but I want to see the saddle sitting on the mule, fully cinched up, on the horse, fully cinched up, and go from there. Remember, there's only 2 trees, so you can get all the saddles in the world, but you still only got 2 trees.
Awesome. Good question. Thank you for sending that in, Valerie. Appreciate it. We got another question here. This one comes in from, let's see. I don't have the name. It looks like Bob, maybe. Do you guys breed and sell mules or recommend any reputable breeders or trainers? And so I've got the answer to this. We do not breed or sell mules, and pretty much do not recommend where to go buy and purchase because we don't know those mules. Steve has not ridden those mules. Steve has not seen those mules, worked with those mules, et cetera, et cetera. That said, there may be a few things that you want to consider when you are seeking out a place. Steve, you just want to talk very briefly about what maybe they want to look for when they're looking for this animal?
Okay, look for disposition, number one. Number one, forget about color, forget about training, forget about how many years they've been in Colorado elk hunting. Forget about all that. Disposition first. Second thing you want to look at is conformation. How high is the hip? The biggest problem with a lot of these mules is they have not been trimmed properly when they're new, when they're young, so their feet are crooked. So you folks with young mules, trim the feet, keep them balanced. The lady with a 2-year-old, trim the feet, keep them balanced so that you got straight legs. Now going back, conformation. Go on the internet. Once you folks start looking and seeing what to see, when you see a saddle sitting on top of the scapula, don't buy the mule. Okay? Now, if you really fall in love with that mule and decide you got to have it, get the vet out, have him x-ray the scapula. Hear that? Important. Okay? And x-ray the feet so that we can look and make sure there's no ring bone or side bone or things like that. But most of all, that's scapula. Okay? The guy that having the animal pulling his mule's foot forward, he's probably got some scapula damage, and like I said before, on the left-hand side. So let's go on. Folks, educate yourself before you go and get in the saddle. I can't tell you how many people have called me and they've spent all this money on this mule at a, quote, reputable place, one of these sales or something like that, and they take them home and the mule ain't the same as it was there. Yeah, folks, listen. I told you before, when you train yourself and work yourself from the ground up, when you take that mule home, don't go climbing on it and ride it. Oh, but Steve, I rode it. Yeah, you did. But now you got a whole different feel, whole different area. Do your groundwork first. Get to know the mule. Yes, you've seen it ridden. Don't worry about the riding. Get to build a foundation of I trust you, you trust me, I know you know me. You understand that, folks? That's really important. That's how my granddaughter was able to do so well. She does groundwork, a lot of it, okay? And you can't overdo groundwork. So there you are. I'd love to tell you folks to go to ABC Place to buy mules. They don't exist, okay? There's big stories about these mules because there's big money right now to be made. And every one of these mules, if they're asking $10,000, they might be worth $2,500 because they're not trained. They're not, folks. It's a mess.
Thank you for the answer. And actually, I put the pieces together. Samantha was the one who had sent that in, and it was through Facebook, so I didn't get the name, but I put the pieces together. It was Samantha, and they just got a mule saddle from you over the last week. But she asked a question. I'm sure you all worked it out because she placed her order, but she asked a question on the Facebook. How do you measure for the proper size saddle? Steve, how do you measure?
Well, it's not a matter of measuring. I measure the person, Okay, I'm 5'6" and a little over 200 pounds, and I ride a 16-inch saddle. I've been talking to some folks. I just talked with a lady yesterday. She's 5 foot tall and barely weighs 90 pounds. So she'd be setting a 14-inch saddle. Folks, here it is. I can't get away without saying this. It's not your rump size, it's your thigh size. So how much room do you have between a pommel and a cantle? Okay, that's really important to know. And while we're talking about saddles, I've got a very good friend of mine, Jimmy Williams. He's got, I don't know, 10 or 12 of my saddles. And he said he's going to cut back, and he wants to sell some slick fork saddles, some of the ranchers. Those are the high-end saddles, folks. Those are high-end saddles, and they're going to be quality. They're still good. Jimmy bought nothing but the quality best. But he says, you know what, Steve? He says, I got too many saddles, and I want to sell these ranchers. So, folks, if you want to get a good deal on a high-end saddle, now it's not going to be no 50% discount now, y'all folks. Don't think, oh boy, I'm going to get for half the money. No, no. My prices of my saddles don't come down that much in price. Will you still save some money? Yeah. Will you still get a nice saddle? Yes. And Jimmy Williams has the saddles, and I think he said he had 3 or 4 of them. So if you want to give me a call and leave a message, and hey, Steve, or email me, steve@muleranch.com, or call me at 602-999-6853 and leave a message. I'll be happy to give you Jimmy's number, and you can call him and play Let's Make a Deal.
Awesome. Let's see here. Let's see, answered that one. Let's talk a little bit about the Martingale bridle. This one comes in from Nanette. Nanette sent in an email, and she says, Mule gets tongue over the bit. He ran back to the barn with me, and I couldn't stop him. It's too large widthwise. I believe I need a different bit. I put okay in the horse bit in. I controlled him. Need help. What would you say to Nanette, Steve?
Well, I've been using that same bit in Martingale for close to 40 years now, Nanette. Have I had a runaway? Yes. Have I had the tongue get over top of the bit? Yes. Okay. It's not that unusual. So, folks, don't go changing bits thinking, okay, here's the magic bit. It's going to fix it. No, no, no. Build a foundation. Build a foundation. Okay. If that mule got his tongue over the bit, guess what you did? Hear that? Guess what you did? You had the bit too high in the mouth. Anytime a mule can get his tongue up over top of the bit, you got it up too high. Always let the mule learn to pack the bit. Pick it up and carry it. Not create 1 wrinkle or 2 wrinkles. Pick it up and carry it. Okay, get that in your mind. Pick it up and carry it. Don't start riding this mule until this mule is consistent in the surcingle with packing the bit. Okay. Now I was mentioning the other day, kind of visiting with my granddaughter a little bit. One of the things, I look for stuff all the time, folks. I'm saying, why is that mule doing that? Why is that mule's got his nose out and his head up? Well, if you're using a dog bone type bit, smooth bit with a dog bone, that mule is trying to get away from that pressure, sticking his nose out and elevating his head. He's sticking his nose out to get a hold of that bit, to control it, elevating his head, tighten all 5 major neck muscles and the throat latch. So see, a lot of folks don't feel it. A lot of folks don't see it. But watch the videos. You'll see people doing that. So going back in the net, what do you got to do? You got to go back, put him in a round pen, let him spend time in there. Folks, forget about the riding. Forget about it, okay? Get your foundation work done. Here's my granddaughter after 4 months competing, okay? She didn't just climb in a saddle the next day. She did her groundwork first. Come along hitch, groundwork, rope halter, surcingle, the mule rider's martingale, then the saddle, then look at riding and go on from there, okay? 6 months builds a foundation. 6 months builds a solid foundation. One thing I want to tell you, Dave, is my granddaughter didn't sell that mule. The mule wasn't finished enough yet. She didn't feel comfortable at somebody taking it home. So she took it home so she could get him started better, finish him up. And she won. So that was a pretty decent mule, right? All right.
Yeah.
but she knew that it wasn't right yet. And you hear that, folks? After 4 months, she knew it still needed more time, so she'd rather take it home, get it right. And then when she sells it, if she decides to do that, she can go from there.
Awesome. Let's see. Question here from Lynn says, I have a new gaited mini mule and need tack, but I'm interested in training for her and myself. She has lots of trail experience and has been ridden by both kids and adults, but she needs fine tuning. So she was looking for maybe some private instruction. I said that we may have a clinic, 1 or 2 clinics here in the next 6 months. But anything that you would recommend she could do for herself right now if private instruction doesn't happen?
Is she here in Arizona, Dave?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Oh, how about that? Okay. Yeah, no, I'm pretty much done with that. They could go down and see Randy down at the Andrada Ranch down south by Tucson. Randy can do a good job with them there. I can't really tell you who to go to here in Arizona right now. I did know somebody, but anyway, that's another story. So I would suggest that you watch my videos and learn to do it yourself.
Awesome. Let's see here. Make sure we wrap up and get everybody taken care of. Samantha says, I need to look into this, so I apologize if I'm asking a silly question. No apologies necessary, Samantha. But do you have videos on conditioning? Is this just like slowly preparing for a marathon, incrementally increasing distance and terrain? What do you say?
Yes, yes. I mean, I wished I had a video for everything I thought I knew, like this right here. Yes, increments. First just walking, and then maybe doing some light riding, and then maybe pack them a little bit, but start building up. And going up a lot of hills, folks. Going up hills and down hills, that helps the hindquarters a lot. But it's just like going to Colorado. You guys that are getting ready to go to Colorado, I hope you've been doing your homework and preparing these mules before you get them up there. I can't tell you how many skeletons I have found up there over the years, and that's another whole story. But you got to prepare these mules, because when you go on these high altitudes, that changes the whole thing. You always want to go several days ahead of time and start preparing your mules. But yes, prepare a little at a time.
Great. Lisa says, I'm looking for a pad to fit my Tennessee Walker Mule, high spine, long back, 16.2. Steve, what pad would you recommend?
Well, it sounds like it would be the triple duty, but hey, you want to send me a picture to my cell phone there. Send me a picture from the top of the ears, bottom of the feet, tip of the nose, tip of the tail, and let me have a look-see. Be happy to look at it for you.
All right. Let's see here. Continuing right along. Y'all have lots of good comments today. That's been great. Linda's question, how do I evaluate Theo's conformation? He was trained from age 4 with all Steve Edwards techniques and equipment. How do I stand on the ground and look at him and tell me what shape he is in and what he may need? He is a quarter horse Mammoth Jack Cross.
Okay, so when I start looking for confirmation, I first get back from the side and I look at it from the top of the ears, bottom of the feet, tip of the nose, tip of the tail. And I look at that overall confirmation. And then when I look at it from the side, I look at the slope of the shoulder. I look at how the neck comes up out of the shoulder and how it attaches into the head. If it's got a nice little tight throat latch, I look at the head, see if it kind of connects with the neck pretty nice. And then I come back to the shoulders, look at the front leg, and I see how straight that is. And then I come around and watch the back. I watch the back and see what that looks like and see if it's got a high hip or if it's just a straight back or if it's got a little bit of a slope to it. And I kind of make a decision there. How's it connecting from the shoulder to the hip? And then I look at the hip, see how rounded it is or how peaked it is. I come down the leg and I look at the gasket muscle. That's your motor. That big muscle there that's just above your knee. That's a big motor there. Okay, it's good muscle. And then I watch the rest of the leg, how it comes down. And then I look at all 4 feet and see if they're the same angle as my shoulder. When they're the same angle as my shoulder, I know that they've been trimmed correctly. Then I come around from behind and I look at the legs. I want to see it straight. Okay. I don't want to see them hawked, but I'm going to tell you 99% of the mules out there are hawked. Why is that? Because when they were young, they were not trimmed properly. That's right. Do they get some of it from their donkey, their daddy? Yeah, they do. But you can trim them and make them balanced right. That's what you should be doing with your babies. Under 3 years old, you should be trimming them, keeping them balanced. And then I look at the front end. I look at how the feet are, just like I do the back end. And I see how straight they are. And that's what I look for.
Awesome. Let's see here. Bonnie says, it took me a year to earn my mule's trust. I believe she trusts me enough to do almost anything I ask of her, and our bond keeps growing stronger, especially since following Steve's training techniques. Thank you, Bonnie. That's awesome. Eileen sent a message, and Eileen, Yolanda sent me this message as well. Yolanda sent Eileen a message saying she wouldn't be able to attend today. So Yolanda sent some pictures in. We'll use them next week when she's here. But she had something come up. So I appreciate that, Eileen and Yolanda. Thanks for letting us know. James is watching from Holden, Missouri. Samantha says, thank you. And right here at the very end, Carla says, hello from northern British Columbia, Canada. Fall is in the air. Mules are hairing up. There we go. Linda says, thank you so much for the confirmation. And here is the last comment. Mark says, Steve, tail set mean anything in your, does tail set mean anything in your confirmation info?
Okay, so when
what
you
is
look
tail
at
set?
tail set, are you talking about how the tail sets in the quarter? Okay, does it mean a lot to me? No, not really, because if they're gaited, it's going to be one set. If they're a quarter type, it's going to be another. It's going to be a draft. It's going to be another. So that pretty much tells me by looking at the tail and the hip, gives me a pretty good idea as to what breeding the mother probably was. But there's a lot of little things I look for, like in the center of the head, how the hair is curling and things like this. How about the eyes and how they look, if they're narrow or wide. And there's a lot of little things like that I look at. But if you look, folks, a good kind eye will get you a long ways.
Folks, we look to have you join us next week and every Wednesday. Spend a little bit of time with us. It's 4:00. That means we are done for the day. Thank you so much for hanging out today, asking all the questions. Y'all brought some great points, some great questions, really great discussion. And quite frankly, it's the most fun for Steve and I when y'all do exactly like you did today and come ready to talk and engage. And I even see folks talking back and forth and having conversations with one another while the show's going on. So really appreciate that. Really grateful, and would love to have you join us next week. We show up every single week on Wednesdays. Right now it's 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, so you could do the math for your time zone. And look forward to seeing you next week. Steve, anything you want to say before we're done today?
No, Dave, I just really appreciate you, buddy. Hey, everybody knows Dave here, as kind of like my sidekick. But I tell you what, this guy is great. So many of you call me and say, man, you and Dave just really tick, and you're right. Dave's a great man of God and a wonderful husband and this sort of thing. Good friend. Yeah, I know that if I need something, Dave will come running. And Dave he's helped you guys out. He has. I would have never been able to get out there and help you with the things that we're doing if it wasn't for this guy. Okay, he was the one that made me famous, so to speak. All right, I put out there on the YouTube and Facebook. He knows all that stuff, Plus that, he's starting to even sound like me with some of them. I can, use this hair sample and da 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 da. Anyway, I got to pat him on the back. Okay, he's a great guy and this sort of thing. And I really appreciate you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Your check is in the mail. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. When we do a clinic and I get to meet folks face to face, that's a lot of fun. I think they're all a little shocked. I don't know as much as maybe they think I'm supposed to know. But that's why I keep showing up every single week so that I can keep learning and I can keep, getting to the point where maybe one day I can do some ground foundation training myself. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Dave, one more thing.
Yeah.
Just a minute, okay? Now, folks, I know a lot of you asked me about clinics. Now, we had planned one in Montana Labor Day weekend. It went down the tube. Next year, we are going to have a clinic in Montana, okay? Just above Missoula, we'll have one. Plus that, we're going to plan a couple here at the ranch. So there'll be invitation only when we get ready to set out. And so I'd like to see you here and just be watching the website, and you'll be able to get the information. But thank you all very much. God bless.